Here we are. Happy Friday. We are glad to
Friday!
be back. Look who's back with us. Hello,
Always a good day when Tom is here.
Mr. Jet Lag.
Yes, correct.
Yes. I hope you have a supersized, extra big gallon of coffee with you. Oh, that's not
I
big
have.
enough.
My coffee maker only makes 10 ounces at a go. So, I just have the Zeke's bag just ready to go here. So
Oh,
today's
please.
the part of Tom Bridge
Fair.
will be played by this bag of Zeke's Honduras, which is the Manos de Mujer from Honduras. And so one of my favorite local blends, roasted about a mile that way. And that's how I roll. Coffee on Friday.
Very nice.
Refills.
I'm drinking Counterculture,
Nice.
which is actually brewed locally.
Yeah.
They are located in Durham, which is
Yep.
not too far away, which is nice. And my coffee maker does not sit like literally at my left hand. So if we see Tom go on mute and see him futzing over to the side, he may be making his extra coffee, during the show because he may be
That's a
he may
power
get
move.
desperate.
The coffee
really
is not
is.
spiked with anything for me today. But
That's sad.
Talk to
I'm
him
so
in a few
sorry.
hours, maybe.
yeah, I was going to say that I did say today, so I can't
Yeah.
promise about next week because next week's not here yet. So
I think I should jump off the conversation and come back after 5 minutes after the coffee because it took me almost a year to cut down my coffee from
no.
I go about mid-morning with coffee and then I switch to iced tea. So it's caffeination all day long into the evening. So it never stops.
Yep.
So,
That's
well,
how
it
I
is.
cut down to. Yeah, I switched to tea in the afternoon, and then kind of slowly been down. It was hard.
Yeah. I mean, the tea, I guess, doesn't have quite as much caffeine as the coffee does, but it's still, yeah. I'm up kind of late. So it's kind of blustery today. It's rainy and overcast and everything. I don't know how it is for you all. Alexa and
Gloomy.
Tom and I are all on the same coast, so
Yes, it's very, very gloomy here. Thunderstorming this morning. So it is gloomy Friday.
I always like it though. The rain this time of year is great because you get all the colors pop. And so, a little bit of rain gives you the really bright greens in the leaves. And of course the the bright purples from the red buds, and the whites of the cherry blossoms and all of those things. It's gorgeous here. And so, although I will say I got back after 10 days from Australia, my car was bright green. The problem is I do not own a green car. I own a gray car. And so I think I missed the worst of the pollen. But I was going to say the allergy meds came in very handy on arrival.
oh, you sweet summer child. It's early April. You've lived in DC long enough to know you haven't even missed the beginning of the pollinating.
And I read that this year it's going to be especially bad.
Excellent. Well, I was going to say I look forward to it. So
I don't look forward to for us here because of all the pine trees. It's kind of a yellow chartreuse-ish. And we've had a very fine dusting, but no, it hasn't been a quarter of an inch thick yet, so it's still to come. But it's nice when we get the rain and it washes it away, and getting rid of it and everything. So that's good. So yeah. Oh, a gray morning. Well, yeah. Portland. I must have transported to Portland, Kelly, for briefly because that's kind of what it looks like out here. Yeah. So any weekend, anything fun for the weekend? I know I don't really celebrate Easter.
I was going to say here in DC, we'll probably figure out an egg hunt for the kids locally. A bunch of us usually get together in a park. The parents show up half an hour early and hide eggs everywhere, and then we set the kids loose. And so that'll be a good
time.
Fun. And then of course, for me, it's all about travel recovery and things along those lines. But I did bring something back awesome for Charlie, which is a friend of mine gifted me a Cocoa Black It is, instead of the Easter bunny or a chocolate bunny, it's a chocolate platypus. So, because
Amazing.
it's amazing. I'll find a
Very-
photo and throw that up someplace, someplace
That's-
fun. But yeah, it's a chocolate platypus like this sized.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I
Are you gonna
love
name it
that.
Perry?
I try not to name the things I know I'm gonna eat, but we'll
Why?
get there. It's just too much attachment, too much.
Yeah. So we have I live in a really big neighborhood. So they do all kinds of activities. So I'll probably be able to see the Easter egg hunt out my window, but my kids are getting kind of big for that. So although my youngest still likes to do things like that, he's 12 and sometimes he still likes to, but he's probably a little too big for that hunt. They do that for the littles. So, but I got candy and stuff, and here I bought chocolate because I thought, oh yeah, the kids are gonna want chocolate. And then the other day he says, so I want Starburst and Skittles, and I'm like,
Oh,
shoot.
yeah, that's tough.
Well,
I bought chocolate. So when I was at the store, I'm looking around for, they had Skittles, but they didn't have they had the special packets of Starburst, which are only like pink. And I'm like, oh, come on. The pink is like the one flavor none of us like.
what?
The
No,
pink is the best.
Becky, that is
no,
a hot take.
cherry, orange, and lemon are our favorites.
My address is 1621 Monroe Street Northeast. You can send me all of your pink Starbursts. That is okay
I
with me.
saw a pack that was all pink. I will get you one and send it to you. Actually, I was at the store. I wanted to get those I saw a jumbo peep that's literally half as big as my body, and I did not get it. And it was purple
Wow.
about a month ago, and I did not get it. And it is no longer there. And I sadly regret my choice of not getting it when I could, because it was $35 and I was like, no, do I want to spend $35 on a giant peep? Well, now I'm regretting that choice because I can't find it anywhere, and online they're like $130 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will have to see. There is a Peep store in DC. Actually, it's not in DC. It's in Maryland. It's on at National Harbor. So if I get the opportunity, I will drop in down there probably after the Easter weekend, because it's going to be a zoo down there this weekend. But
Yeah.
I'll see what I can
The
find.
only place I've seen them is at the department store that starts with a W.
Oh,
The
okay.
Wally place. I
Yeah.
haven't. Target doesn't carry them. I've only seen them at one place. The giant. I mean, these were like 38 inches tall, not the
Holy
24.
moly.
38 inches. I have a picture of me holding it because I was so excited. Uh, so yeah, I like stuffed animals. You can see a couple of stuffed things in my shelf sometimes, and I usually have one within reach on my desk, although I don't right now. So yeah, I have a variety of peeps from over the years. I have the bird, and we have some other of the bunnies from over the years in different colors. So David said Krishnan's like, bring on the MFA. No, Krishnan knows. You've been on here at least once before, right?
There a few times, yeah.
Yeah. So you know the drill. We chit chat a little bit. Well, Rob,
Yes,
it's
Rob,
not
your
not
pancreas
edible.
should hurt. Oh, it's not edible?
No,
Thank God.
no, it's just a stuffed animal.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought this was an edible giant
I-
peep.
No,
I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
what?
no. Stuffed
I was
And I was like,
wondering-
Diabetes.
but when you were talking about it, I was like, is she gonna eat it?
No.
Oh
it's just-
dear.
I am a stuffed animal peep, not an edible peep.
Okay.
I already have the diabetes to go along. I don't need to make it worse. No, Rob, you were distracted, but not. Not Squishmallow brand, but kind of like yeah. Anywho, yeah, I'm actually not a huge like I like some of the chocolate stuff, or like the marshmallow with chocolate covered, like the can't remember what brand it is, but that's about as far as my Easter candy goes. So with that, Kelly says Krishnan's been here once before, so it means he at least brought it on himself. There we go. Okay. We'll move on. So Tom is going to talk about X World today, which is why he is a little bit jet lagged.
Yep.
And Krishnan is going to talk about push bomb mitigation. Very excited about that. But as usual, before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about community and meetups. So I will look, there's a lot in community since we didn't go over them last week because we had such an amazing panel. So I'll make you a deal. I will not go through every single one of them, but we will put them in the recap. There are some things in networks and best practices and security. There's some really great ones around configuring jump cloud radius and groups, around HRIS integrations. Our integrated MDM, EMM, and IAM vendors really zero trust. So there's a lot. There's some scripts. There's some great things on the Radical Admin blog. We will put all of those in the recap. You can go take a look at those. We can even put some of them in the chat as we are going through. Go check them out. There's some really good things going on. Even some questions that you might want to take a look at. Always great stuff in the community. You should be checking that out daily. In fact, let me put the link down below. I love how that pops up below us now. Awesome. And Alexa, I know you have a pretty cool meetup update. So why don't you tell us about that?
I do, yeah. So if you have been on this show at all, whenever I give my updates, we always talk about, if you have a group of people you want to get together, or if you have a meetup group you want to start up, then let us know, because we are happy to get involved and sponsor it. So I have been chatting with Keith Richard, friend of the show, and he has started the Twin Cities Mac Admins. Well, restarted it. And they have put together their first event coming up at the end of this month that we are happy to sponsor. So we're super excited about sponsoring our first event for the Twin Cities Mac Admins. We're super excited that he, is a active community member. So just super excited about that. I will drop the link to register for that if you're in that area. But yeah, we are super excited to start getting involved with some more, regional events. So if you know us, Twin Cities isn't one of the groups that's actually in our network, but that doesn't matter. So this is a great example of, no matter where you are, if you have a group of people that you want to start getting together to just chat and talk shop, then let us know, because we want to help you out. So yeah, we're super excited about that. And that is April 26th. But again, I will drop the link to register for that. And so thank you, Keith, for, reaching out and getting that started with us. But yeah, we're thrilled.
Woohoo. Very excited. I don't know if I've seen Keith chat, so maybe he will show up in a bit. Otherwise, when you see this afterward, Keith, thank you.
For sure.
All right. So, Tom, I think we are going to go ahead and let you go first, because I think you said you had to.
Yeah, I've got a heart out here in about 20 minutes to handle another meeting here at Jump Cloud. But yeah, it was great I've just gotten back from Melbourne, Australia, where there was the first X World conference in 3 years. They were able to pull off a really great event down there in Melbourne for Apple admins and Apple developers. It was a co-conference with the folks at /dev/world, which is the version of the developers conference that happens down there. The AUC, which is once upon a time it stood for the Apple University Consortium, and now it just stands for the AUC. They're no longer directly related to the folks at Apple. They hold this conference. It's actually the oldest continuously running, obviously aside from COVID, a conference for Mac admins in the world. It predates Penn State Mac admins. It predates the the conferences for Mac DevOps, YVR, Mac sysadmin even, although it's just by a year or two. This was the 18th iteration of XWorld, and we gathered for 2 days of a 2-track conference with awesome keynotes. We had a really great keynote the second day from one of our colleagues at Instagram, talking about developing for the iOS platform and developing a huge app like Instagram, right? I mean, when you think about all of the different features of Instagram's platform, how do you develop an app like that? How do you even build features for an application that's roughly the size of, I don't know, Cleveland when it comes to a code base? So it was really spectacular to kind of listen to some of those lessons. We heard from luminaries like Marcus Ransom from Jamf on the Apple endpoint security framework, as well as from, I'm trying to think who else, Bart Reardon talked about the journey to Swift Dialog 2.0 and how he worked on that. And then we also had a ton of, I gave the first day's keynote, which was called Running After the Ice Cream Truck, which is it's part history, part self-help group, part future forward-looking version of how we deal with Apple operating systems, which is to say, over the last 40 years, there have been 36 versions of macOS. If you think from System 1 to System 6, they did that in 5 years. And so if you think that there have been all of these releases, this annual release cycle that we're on now is actually probably one of the most dependable cycles of change that we have in the Apple ecosystem. And that starts every year in June. And of course, day before I get up on stage, they'd announced Worldwide Developers Conference, which is running June 5th through 9th. Mostly online. There's going to be a 1-day event that you had to fill out a lottery form to go to in Apple Park. Fun fact: I was not selected. And yes, Next Step is included in that, David, and because it's a big part of Rhapsody, which was the bridge gap between macOS 9 and macOS 10. And so if you look at the cycles of change that have happened in those spaces, we know what the annual cycle is. There's a new version of the operating system that was that gets released in June into beta testers. It's tested and refined through the period into the fall. It usually releases either somewhere between the last week of September and the first week of November every year. There's an initial .0 release, which is called the A build cycle. If you look at the macOS build cycle, that it's got a number and a letter and then a number again, right? I mean, and the first number is the operating system major version. Right now, I happen to be sitting on, let's see, it's version 22F 5027F. So that 22 is this is the 22nd major release of macOS 10. And the F build cycle is there in the fall, or excuse me, there in the springtime, where I'm running the 13.4 beta cycle. And so, if you look at where the leaps are, we get an initial A release, which is the raw from beta kind of environment. It's probably not the most reliable version of the operating system, but it frequently comes out for new hardware. We get the .1 release shortly thereafter, usually in the November timeframe, which is the first major bug fix release, as well as sometimes a feature release for macOS. It's called the C release. Nobody knows what happened to the B release. I guess B stands for Bruno because we don't talk about it. When we get into the .2 release, that's usually January timeframe, and is also security and bug fixes primarily. That's the D sequence release. We get the E releases in the springtime or in the fall in Australia. I'm sorry, I was corrected on stage. It's autumn down there. It is not referred to as fall. Cultural difference. So that is important. I also understand that the phrase "inside baseball" is never used in Australia because, again, no baseball. So who knew? I mean, there's some baseball, just not
So
long.
sad.
But, we start to think about the cycles that we go through. Apple has basically said in the latest version of the developer documentation that they're not porting all of their security fixes back to all of the operating systems they still release. So, you may be on macOS Ventura, which is the 13.series release. Apple is still releasing some software updates for the Monterey cycle, which is 12.x, and Big Sur, which is 11.x. Not every security feature that gets fixed in macOS 13 is fixed in macOS 12 or macOS 11. And so you think about this structure, we have an annual cycle for a reason, and it's to get you back on that newest release all of the time. That is where Apple wants you to run. That's honestly where you should be running from a security perspective. And so how we work on a day-to-day basis when the operating system is changing beneath us all of the time, it can feel a little frustrating and demoralizing because you don't necessarily know what's in those fixes. You don't necessarily have a good feeling around those kind of things. But the structural change cycle that we have here is predictable and understandable. And when you can do those things, you can build your own resources around those topics. Keep yourself going forward. So I call it chasing after the ice cream truck, because the situation is there is a new release every month or two from Apple, and we need to stay up to date with those releases. We can choose to treat that as an opportunity, or we can choose to treat it as a drain on us. Chances are it's actually both of those things. And so if we think about it from a perspective of, hey, there's new stuff in there, new stuff that can be exciting, why don't we default to excited and not scared? And so as we go into a cycle here, 2 months from now, we're going to get a new version of the operating system. There's going to be good new stuff in there. Not all of it, but some of it. And so what we have to do to keep our sanity is to focus on the things we enjoy, and focus on the things we're good at, and focus on what we're doing is protecting our own businesses, our own coworkers, and our own friends. Let's go to work. Let's get this done. And so, we can contain multitudes. We can be frustrated with the pace of play. We can be frustrated with the underlying change that comes with all of this stuff, and the necessity to test and do those things. But the reward for all of that is delivering great experiences to our friends, to our colleagues, to our customers, and doing all of those things together. So I like to think about it as chasing after an ice cream truck, even though it can feel sometimes like I'm chasing after a truck just to get a cabbage. And while halushki is delicious, and so is roasted cabbage, and so is corned beef and cabbage, it's maybe not as comforting as a Klondike bar, right? And so that was what the big talk was about. I also gave a talk on software update, and that one both of these talks will be publicly available here in the next couple of weeks after they're through with editing. I have the comps to go look at. And so there's a lot of good stuff to go talk about there. I would strongly recommend that folks watch, who was it? Meryl from Microsoft gave an incredible talk about the Microsoft primary refresh token, and how primary refresh tokens are used to keep environments safe. And how Microsoft's own policy they do not require their employees to change their passwords, which I thought was fascinating. Meryl Fernando, who's the PM down there, essentially says, I've worked at Microsoft for a while. I've never changed my password. And Michael Epping said the exact same thing when I saw him in October at Objective by the Sea. And essentially what they've figured out is, and we're going to talk about this with Krishnan here in a moment, I think it's a perfect segue into the topic, is that you can keep your users safe and secure without constantly bombarding them with password dialogues, and without constantly bombarding them with MFA. And so, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Becky, and we can talk a little bit more about how that goes.
Please. I'm so sick of changing my password every 90 days.
Correct.
Aren't we all? I mean, seriously. Thank you, Tom. I'm looking forward to. Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting to share those when those are available. So thank you for that. Krishnan. So we've been very excited about having you on to talk about push bomb mitigation. It's been, if you recall, it has been a long discussion in the Slack lounge. And bye, Tom. Thank you so much. It has been a long discussion in the Slack lounge for quite a while, right?
Those. Yeah, it's still fresh in my memory. And we've been working really hard on that one. That's one of the widely, or I would say, asked capability. And now it's there. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be back here with my esteemed colleagues. Thanks to Becky and Alexa for having me here. So with that, I'll directly jump into what the push bombing is. Everybody knows what it is, but to kind of set the context, I'll start there. And today, for since it's Easter, I decided to do a live demo, right? This is not just gone into production. It is in early access with few customer. So I decided to do a live demo. I take a chance here. That's what we are about, right? Okay, I'm going to share my screen and start. So just give me a minute. I'm just trying to get used to this one.
Yeah, the shares. The shares
yeah.
on the bottom right there.
Okay, yes. Okay, can you see
Yes.
my screen? Okay. No, I think it's kind of, and how do I go back? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to kind of start with giving a brief overview, and then I'll jump into the demo. Becky, how much time do I have?
We've got the full 30 minutes if you need it.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's going to take the entire 30 minutes. Okay, so let me kind of start with giving some overview of what push bombing and MFA fatigue is, right? So the way it kind of then hacker or an offender will do is that they'll try to take over an user account by passing the push MFA, right? Push MFA is known to be one of the most secure MFA factor compared to TOTP. That because one of the reason is that the user always has the device in their hand, but again the way the credentials are it uses asymmetric key cryptography. The private key always stays on the device, and the public key is sent to the server. So the chances of man in the middle attack is pretty much zero, right? But as attackers are pretty smart, they they try different methods. That's one of the recent occurrences, the push bombing, which kind of impacted some of the bigger players like Microsoft and Okta of the worlds, right? So what it is? So an attacker generally they get hold of the password through some other means. Say, for example, say social engineering, right? They look at your Facebook or LinkedIn, and then they try to gather your personal details, and they try to guess the password, or through some phishing, they try to create a mock site, and they trick you, kind of going to the site and entering the password. So by using that means they get your password. Once they kind of get your password, right, now they are blocked by the second factor. Let's take in this example, which is push MFA. They can't really attack the push MFA, or they can't really brute force push MFA. So the way they try to do that is they trigger multiple push notification, and they bombard the user's mobile phone, and they wait for the user to get tired. Hey, especially when the users end of the day, business day, when they are sleeping, and your phone is bombarded with say 100 push notification. At some point, you want to say, hey, I just want to stop, right? So what you do is that's accidentally tap it and now say approve, right? By that, the user gets do an account takeover. The attacker takes an account takeover. Generally, it will not happen for the device login, because the attacker needs to get hold of the device, or even for, say, example, radius. The attacker needs to be within the radius of the Wi-Fi network. So generally, more prominent for, say, web login, especially in the case of JumpLoad, say, it's user portal login, or a remote desktop process, right? or a Linux SSH. Those are the prominent endpoints which can as at a risk of being compromised. So what is JumpCloud going to do? That's one of the major questions that customers have been kind of asking us. So what we kind of decided to do is that by default, we decided to kind of restrict the concurrent push notification which the user can initiate for a specific endpoint. Meaning that say example, I'm trying to kind of log into the user console at any given point of time we're going to kind of restrict one in-flight push notification for the user. Again, it's not really blocking the user from doing multiple push notification. Is that at any given point, user can try one attempt, right? But again, the user can retry when the timeout expired, which is about a minute, or once the user kind of approves the previous push notification, right? Again, we don't really restrict if the user is trying to do concurrent login attempts across different endpoints. For example, I can try to still log into user console. I can still log into the Radius or a device login. So we really don't restrict. Again, let's say if admin kind of thinks that hey, this is really restrictive. I would like to kind of completely control my my organization security posture. We do provide those kind of flexibility, right? So meaning that an admins can go in and kind of turn off the feature completely from the admin console, right? You'll kind of know once I kind of transition to the demo. Today we are going to roll out across user console, SSO devices, and also password manager. At this point of time, doesn't apply to LDAP and Radius. That's something we'll kind of add that in the future. Again, it's more of a technical limitation, and the way because LDAP and Radius are legacy protocol, the way it kind of behaves, it can add some problems to the end user. It can limit the user. That's why we'll be adding that in the future. At this time, it's already in early access, meaning that we are already kind of tested with some of our prominent customers, and we already incorporated those feedback. We improved, and we are expecting to kind of go GA sometimes. We'll be doing a slow rollout, and we'll be initially rolling out to 10% of our customers, and slowly we'll be kind of rolling out to our entire jump cloud customer base. We are planning to kind of start next week on 11th. So yeah, before we kind of jump into the demo itself, and also one more thing I want to kind of add, right? Again, in case if the user can also see the push rejected event in directory insights, right? So that admins know if they get any user complaints, right? Hey, I'm being restricted. They will know what exactly is the reason by looking at the DI. And also we also improved the user message that we kind of show to the user on the user console, and why why it's being blocked and what they can do the next step, right? So those are some of the information we kind of show as well. And it's again, this applies only to the push, and user can try TOTP or WebAuthn concurrently to to the login to the user console. We don't really restrict those factors at this time. So any other question before I jump into the demo? I don't know.
I don't think I have seen any questions yet, but
Okay.
maybe once we get into the demo, we might see some.
Okay, let me do the demo. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to share something, but it's not working for me. Let's try again. It says I'm already sharing it, but I don't know what's going on.
I wonder if maybe you should stop sharing.
Yeah, I stopped sharing that page, and then I'm retrying. It says probably Crowdcast didn't.
Yeah, I would say try stop sharing completely, and then.
Is there a way for you guys to?
Here, let
do
me.
that? Because it's I stopped sharing already, but it's still I'm sharing.
Yeah, actually, I am trying to. I'm trying to remove it, and it is stuck too.
Okay.
All right. Well,
I guess this means the demo gods are not with us today.
Yes.
Okay. Now, no, it's.
Should
I
I
was able
drop
to.
out
I was
and come
able.
again? Should I try that?
I was able to move it out of the way, but I'm not able to actually like kick it completely. Well, it is stuck. Will it let you try to reshare again?
Yeah, I'm still trying. I mean, it's stuck actually.
Yeah, it
I
is.
can drop off and try join again. That's an option. I can try. I don't know if that.
Yeah,
But
I can. Hang on. Okay. So I'm sorry, Krishnan. I just booted him, and hopefully that will allow him to come back in. And yep, that's what happens when we tempt the demo gods, right? But that's okay because we will adjust. We do have some, if we have time. There's some really interesting stuff in the news today that we will be looking at. So let's see here.
okay,
There we
now
go.
I can see the option.
All
Okay.
right. So apologies for booting you, but hopefully that helps.
Okay.
Jeff's comment made me laugh.
Okay. Here we
Yay,
go.
that worked.
Okay, cool.
Phew.
Can everyone see my screen well?
Yep,
So
we
because
can.
I'm adding 3 screens because there are no different things I want to kind of show. So here is the new configuration we introduced on the MFA configuration page. So this is which is set to no maximum today. The default is going to be 1 attempt. But I'm going to the no maximum is exactly mimics the current behavior. I'm going to kind of show how it's, oh God. I'm going to see, I'm going, and also I kind of I'm showing my current mobile screen as well. So I have 2 sessions. One is on the Chrome, another one is on the Safari. So I'm going to log in and send a push notification. Okay, and let's see. Hopefully it arrives. Okay, it did arrive. So now I can see that I have 2 push notifications that is kind of sent to the device, right? So think of an attacker on the web, right? Yes, you can create unlimited sessions and you can bombard your device, say under push notification. At some point you will think hey, just stop, right? So this is what we are going to kind of mitigate. And just for the case, I'm going to just approve it and then log out again. Okay, I'm going to try setting it to say 1. I'm going to save. I'm going to try again. First, I have received already the first push notification. So now, right, we kind of show a message to the user, right? They need to kind of check the device and then approve the push notification or wait until the request times out. And we also show a counter timer, right, when they can actually retry. Right? So that really kind of helps, so that now the user gets a little bit pay more attention to the push prompt. Now, generally, we kind of recommend, we recommend the admins to educate the user to kind of see the application name, the timestamp, and also where they are actually initiating the location. And once I approve it, now I can Once it's like, the timer kind of goes down to kind of zero, now they can kind of reattempt the push notification again, right? But again, in this case, I have set to kind of one push notification at any given point of time, but I can always change that to kind of increase the number of concurrent attempts. We have kind of set the maximum to kind of 5 attempts, because we think like, the user will not be able to try generally within 1 minute of time, or they'll not be able to try more than three, considering that they have to re-enter the password and kind of retry again. So this will kind of like, help, reducing the number of pushes, like, that can kind of reach a device at any given point of time, so that, the user will be able to really pay attention and then approve, which is actually a genuine push notification, which is initiated by them, right? And they'll be able to kind of like, avoid any accidental, like, approval. Again, I'm not saying it will completely like, 100% solve, but it will help in like, really bombarding the user's device, right? That will completely solve those kind of problems within a 1 minute time window. So that's what we are really like, solving for. And it also kind of enhances a little bit, not only security posture, but like, a little bit of the user experience as well, right? So the user is not really bombarded with like, flooded with the push notification, right? So it kind of like, it's a good blend of security as well as a better user experience in general. And I'll quickly show the, okay, the DI event. Sorry about that. Okay, now we can kind of see, the admins can see like, a specific push attempt has failed. And we kind of show a message like, hey, there is like, too many concurrent requests. That's why like, the user, like, that specific push attempt has failed. And like, they can, the admins will be able to kind of advise the user, what's like, kind of what text steps they need to kind of take to kind of log in. Again, it's not really a blocker. It's just for that, like, we provide the visibility to the admins why a specific push attempt has failed. So, yeah, that's all I have on the demo. I'm kind of opening it up for any questions or any concerns if they may have. Again, if you can always kind of reach out to me on Slack Lounge. Becky will immediately let me know, or I generally keep watch on that. Or you can directly reach out to me as well, right? If you have any concerns or any questions, I'm happy to kind of jump on the call and have a conversation on how we can kind of improve this capability.
And you said earlier that right now it is in early access.
Mhm.
And when is the general plan for it to be rolling out for GA?
Yeah, our plan right now, it's on April 11th to do is starting with a slow rollout. We'll be like rolling out to say 10% of the customer. But again, because of the tool we use, we don't have any control on which customer gets it. So we'll be like starting from next week, we can see that being rolled out to the customer. We have like, one minor bug which we need to address. We will address that before that. So.
Awesome. I am not seeing any questions. I think that was a pretty clear demo and everything. So thank you very much. That was really great. And again, reach out in the Slack lounge or post your questions in the community. If you think of something, really looking forward to seeing this roll out and seeing how it works for everyone. Thank you. Thank you for the demo and everything. And it worked. One minor hiccup, but we got through it. So
Yeah.
great job.
And interestingly, it's not the bug with jump cloud, right? It's about,
Yeah, it wasn't your actual demo. It was the something with Crowdcast not wanting to let you do your thing. So all good. And we actually have a few minutes to go into the news. There are some interesting things going on in the news recently. So let's jump into that. I was I found several really interesting things on Ars Technica, so I'm going to start with some of those. If you have a NEX, NEXX garage door controller, if you haven't heard of this, because this came out last week, then you might want to check it out. A market leading garage door controller is so riddled with severe security and privacy vulnerabilities. The researcher who discovered them, Sam Sabaton, is advising anyone using one to immediately disconnect it until they are fixed. It's a device, $80 device used to open and close garage doors and control home security alarms and smart power plugs. It employs the same easy to find universal password to communicate with Next servers. And the controllers also broadcast unencrypted email address, device ID, first name and last initial corresponding to each one, along with the message required to open or shut a door or turn on or off a smart plug or schedule a command for a later time. So just about anyone with any ability to research can search Next servers for a given email address, device ID, or name, and then issue commands to the associated controller. And they allow for like a garage door to be opened, a device connected to a smart plug to be turned off or on, or an alarm to be disarmed. And we're still, over the last 3 months, personnel for Texas-based Next haven't responded to multiple private messages warning of the vulnerabilities. So they've ignored communication attempts from the researcher who discovered these vulnerabilities, from DHS and the media. So this researcher is telling device owners they should immediately unplug all Next devices and create support tickets requesting that they remediate the issue. So, yikes. Um, yeah, Brett is saying, I'll be checking this out in context of my parents and in laws. As elderly humans, they are susceptible to social engineering and have little understanding of 2FA, push notifications, etc. Yeah, it's a concern with this company not being responsive and it being so easily found and researchable. So please, if you have these devices or have family that do, please disconnect them. Do what you can to make sure people are safe. I have a handful of smart devices, but not a ton. I have a couple that control simple things like this light behind me here in my office. It turns on in the morning and turns off in the evening. I have it set to turn off in the evening to remind me to get the heck out of my office. Stop working. Go do something else. Yeah, Rob says, next, do you want a class action lawsuit? Because this is how you get a action lawsuit. That is, yeah, that's very true. It's sad when somebody's kind of ignoring and putting their head in the sand on that. So please check with your family who maybe don't, we have a lot of family and friends who aren't aware of things like this. They don't watch the news, security news like this. They just don't pay attention. So give them a heads up. Okay, next, uh, supply chain attacks. Trojanized Windows and Mac apps rain down on 3CX users. Remember SolarWinds? A similar attack is playing out right now against a software supplier. P.S. If your org is using 3CX, you should analyze your network infrastructure to look for signs of compromise if you haven't already. Hackers working on behalf of the North Korean government have pulled off a massive supply chain attack on Windows and Mac OS users of 3CX, which is a widely used voice and video calling desktop client. And this is coming from researchers from multiple security firms. Through means that aren't yet clear, the attack managed to distribute Windows and Mac OS versions of the 3CX app, which provides both VoIP and PBX services to 600,000 plus customers, including Amex, Mercedes-Benz, PwC. The attackers somehow gained the ability to hide malware inside the apps. that were digitally signed using the company's official signing key. The macOS version, according to macOS security expert Patrick Wardle, was also notarized by Apple, indicating that the company analyzed the app and detected no malicious functionality. Security firm CrowdStrike said the infrastructure and an encryption key used in the attack match those seen in a March 7 campaign carried out by Labyrinth Kolima, the tracking name for a threat actor aligned with the North Korean government. This came to light late on Wednesday when products from various security companies began detecting malicious activity coming from legitimately signed binaries for 3CX laptop or desktop apps. Preparations for the operation began no later than February 2022. I read an update on this a little bit after I pulled this that said that people were asking 3CX about this because their security was going off about this, and 3CX wasn't acknowledging it at the time, but so it's still in flux. I don't know if they have finally acknowledged it, but please just keep an eye out, be watching for things like this. It was going back and forth, and they were saying, oh well, you should be checking with the security company, not us. And people were saying, no, if they're saying there's some weird activity going on, then maybe you should be the ones checking it out to make sure there's nothing wrong. So yeah, Sam, good to alert your SOC and scan clients and for vulnerabilities and things like that, just to keep on top of it. If you're an MSP, maybe check with your clients and make sure that none of them are running it, and so on and so forth. Just all these, middle of the supply chain attacks are getting more prevalent. Here's another. Okay, we're back to AI again. Yes, we're gonna talk about AI till it's a very dead topic. But what was interesting about this one is why Chat GPT and Bing Chat are so good at making things up. What? Making things? No, no. So a look inside the hallucinating artificial minds of the famous text prediction bots. So, over the past few months, AI chatbots like ChatGPT have captured the world's attention due to their ability to converse in a human like way on just about any topic. But they come with a serious drawback. They can present convincing false information easily, making them unreliable sources of factual information and potential sources of defamation. I read a few examples of things like them attributing uh, articles to people who didn't write them, or even saying an article was written that didn't exist and things like that. So, why do they make things up? And will we ever be able to fully trust their output? Ars Technica asked experts and dug into how these AI models work to find the answers. This was actually a fairly long piece, and it was really interesting. I only pulled like a small bit of it. We're going to link it in our show notes. If you have time, you should really read it because it went in depth about hallucinations, is what they have been calling this term in AI, because they in academic literature they call these mistakes hallucinations, but that label is kind of controversial because people feel like it may anthropomorphize AI models. I always have trouble suggesting they have human-like features and maybe even giving them agency. But that's not what this means in the academic literature. So it's so new that they have instead started maybe using the term confabulation to talk about how, as AI consumes all this information and then kind of tries to be predictive and winds up making mistakes, and kind of fills in the gap, um, just like your brain does. You try to fill in the gaps of your memory, or try to predict what someone's going to say. That's what chat is trying to do. It's kind of a creative gap filling principle. So they're talking about confabulation instead of hallucination, although I kind of think it's funny to say that AI is hallucinating. But Go check out that article because it's really interesting. Code refuse, David. I like that, AKA code refuse. And Charles is saying garbage in, garbage out. It is interesting. I tend to wonder, like when they're doing these training models and they're using a lot of stuff from the web. They say they're using books and articles and things like that, but in the back of my head, I'm wondering like how how much are they vetting the sources? Because we know there are a lot of sites out there that have just manifestos and all kinds of junk. So are they training them on reliable sources, or is it just consuming and crawling the web with every single thing out there? I haven't really dug into some of the sourcing that they're using for chat gpt and other things, so I'm unclear as to whether they are keeping it to vetted sources and things like that. um David, this is why the AIs are going to turn on us. I keep forgetting that I can just pop these up. um And Charles is saying they hate that. And Kelly, yeah, no one ever is confidently stating something that's patently false. Um, I have seen some very confidently wrong people over time. So yeah, I mean, it go read the article. It goes into a lot of detail around how that's happening and why, and it was really fascinating. Uh All right, I've got one more. And this one is kind of creepy and also it's going to kind of tick you off a little bit. So, especially if you own a Tesla. So, anyone here own a Tesla? Let's see in the chat.
Allowed to.
Huh?
Would love to.
Maybe not after you hear this. So, I have a neighbor that owns a Tesla. I have not sent them this article yet. If you have friends that own them, you might want to send them this. Tesla employees have been sharing and memeing private car videos.
Hmm.
So, former Tesla employees are confessing to sharing, laughing at, playing in slow motion, and generally having a great time watching the videos that were taken with customers in vehicle cameras. Reuters reports that close to a dozen former employees have revealed that sharing drivers' personal videos was one of their favorite pastimes at the office, a good way to stave off boredom and to keep their coworkers entertained.
Oh, wow.
If you saw something cool that would get a reaction, you post it, right? And then
Hmm.
later on break, people would come up to you and say, "Oh, I saw what you posted. That was funny." One former staffer told the news outlet. People who got promoted to lead positions shared a lot of these funny items and gained notoriety for being funny. Musk's cars come with a bevy of pre installed cameras, some of which are mounted inside the car and several of which are stationed externally. Tesla says that these cameras are used to help guide its autopilot function, the semi automated mode of driving that allows a user to cede some tasks to the vehicle's computer systems. When you agree to Tesla's privacy policy, you agree to share this visual data through the company, though the company states on the website that the cameras are designed from the ground up to protect your privacy. Hmm. As it turns out, one particular class of Tesla worker, what's known as a data labeler, is tasked with watching these in vehicle videos. Labelers watch the videos to help the company's AI systems better identify particular objects that appear in them. The labelers haven't just been passively viewing customer videos, however. To break the monotony, as one former employee put it, they also made a habit of sharing the most entertaining ones with colleagues via a Slack like internal messaging system. What kind of videos would employees share? Former staffers remember stuff like dogs, interesting cars, clips of people recorded by Tesla cameras tripping and falling, all being big hits. In one popular video, the car's owner, a man, approached the vehicle totally naked. In another instance, employees enthusiastically shared a video of a child on a bike getting hit by a car. The child and the bike flew in opposite directions, former employees said. Still, another category of entertainment apparently involved crashes and road rage incidents. If Tesla owners had something funny or interesting stashed in their garage, those items would also typically end up being the subject of office banner. I- when I read this, I cannot tell you just how, yeah, Alexa, definite side eye. Uh, I know that there's no expectation of privacy in a lot of ways, but that just, I mean, there are interior cameras where people do all kinds of things where they would reasonably expect some personal privacy, right? You've got your kids in there if you're a parent, or your animals, or you're having private phone conversations. All of that you would expect to be private and not being listened to and shared internally within that company. And it just boggles my mind that anyone would think that that's appropriate. And, we talked earlier about class action suits. If I were a Tesla owner, I would be considering it. Believe me. I mean, that's just beyond inappropriate. Uh, yeah, Lou, why I really prefer a dumb house car, etc. I mean, I go in occasionally and scrub my Echo because it records, all these little snippets, and I'll go in once in a while and delete them and stuff. But I bet so many people don't even realize, I mean, I've seen videos of the external cameras on Teslas, like somebody saw someone vandalizing their car by unplugging it from the chargers and things like that. Like we've all seen examples of those things. But just the gross negligence of that, in my opinion, um, not the legal term of gross negligence, but just, my personal opinion of that, just, whoo. I'd rather have a camera that I install and that I have control over, like, what it records, and it's on an SD card that I can mess with and things like that. But that just, to use a term from Family Guy, that just really grinds my gears. Alexa, what do you think? You're quiet.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I would not want that. No one needs to see that.
No, think about people that drive a lot and practically live in their car. I mean, I have a friend that commutes so much, driving all over, you know, the local area, a couple of local states, and they are in their car multiple hours a week. And I just can't even. I mean, they're on the phone all the time and having
Mm.
work calls and personal calls. I can't even imagine. That would just be.
I would just become so aware of everything I'm doing in my car that I could end up on, a company Slack making fun of me.
Yeah. I have a couple of little security cameras that I plug in when we're out, that run just on the local network, and I only plug them in when we're gone to keep an eye on the cats. Um, but I have had them on when we're home. I forget to unplug them, and then I realize that I left them on. And even though there's no one that has access to it, I'm like super conscious of there's someone watching me,
Mhm.
even though I know it's just me. And it just feels so weird because I'm like, oh yeah, I need to disconnect that. It's up there, staring at me, and it just feels so weird to feel like you're being watched. It would just completely freak me out. And I
Yeah.
don't, okay, so as a woman, I think it maybe even feel more um, weird and creepy because we have additional safety things to worry about. Um, Especially if you're a single woman, if you are traveling alone or live alone or something, there are a lot of additional safety things that you have to worry about, that men may not think about or realize that, we have these additional programs running in the back of our head, and calculations that men may not a lot of men may not realize are going on around our safety and things like that that we are continually thinking about, and that would just add another layer of worry that we
Mhm.
don't really need at all. So was there anything else in the comments? Video tag by Tesla employees not an outsourced. Yeah, what doesn't seem to be outsourced. And yeah, Jeff, what if someone was driving in one of those cars on a confidential phone call and that video is shared, distributed? Yikes. I mean, yeah, right. I see that's where my mind went. Like, what if you are commuting and you need to be on a company call and it is confidential and proprietary, and you don't realize that that is being pulled in from the camera, because in the article it said that it was unclear when the cameras were on or not on. There wasn't any indicator. So
Mm.
people didn't always know whether it was recording or not. So you might not know that your proprietary information is getting pulled and kept in that way. That could be such a huge breach. So I think they're going to have to, there should be a way to turn that off or not have it recorded or something, turn off like on the Echo where there's a way to mute the microphone when you need privacy or something like that. So, well, with that, we did manage to go over a little bit. Thanks for those of you who stayed with us. It was a good.
One thing, Becky, like, when you said Alexa, why you are it was very silent. I initially thought you were talking to Amazon Alexa. But I'm like, oh, because you're talking about AI and Tesla and everything.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, it's funny when we
Oh,
have
isn't it?
meetings, because outside my door and down my hallway a little bit, I do have my Echo. So I make sure to say Echo at times, because when we are in meetings together and I say Alexa's name, I'm not saying it super loud this time, I will hear, "I'm sorry, I didn't get that." And I'll be like, "Alexa, be quiet," or "Stop," or something like that, because it will trigger when I'm not meaning it to. So don't rename the Echo to Alexa Emerson. When I first got it, it would allow me to redo the wake word to computer, but I have
Mhm.
the first gen one, and that option is no longer available on my first gen one. It's weird that they took that away. I guess you can do it on the newer ones, but it used to be able to, which I guess would be fine, except if you're watching Star Trek, maybe that wouldn't be such a good a good thing to have. It would be triggering all the time. But my kids didn't like it because they had gotten used to saying Alexa all the time. So when we changed to computer, they couldn't. It just wasn't natural to them because they weren't big Star Trek fans. So it didn't work for them, and it was too long of a word. So we had to go back to Alexa. Now it's not available anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. Rob saying, "Two of my rats yell at each other and apparently sounds close enough to 'Hey Google,' because my most common command to assistant is 'I'm not talking to you.'" I managed to somehow, with the way I move my wrist, I managed to get Siri going on my watch a lot of the times,
Mhm.
and it'll say or "I didn't catch that." And I also have it set to an Irish accent, so that gets even more fun because it says it in an accent.
I do like that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when I'm good doing, directions on my phone and it does it all in a Irish lilt. It's much more fun than a boring American accent, so.
So true.
All right, with that, we will let everyone go. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you, are doing any egg hunts or doing something fun for Easter, I hope you enjoy. I hope it's nice weather. My granny used to say that if it was, pretty on Easter, if it was beautiful on Easter, then the next 7 Sundays would be beautiful as well, so I hope that holds true. A nice old Midwestern wives' tale. So, with that, everyone have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Thanks,
Take care.
Becky. Thanks, Alexa.
Thanks, Krishnan, for joining us. Take care.
Bye,
Bye all.
everyone.